She was a 37-year-old mother of three. In multiple viral videos, a masked federal officer fires into her SUV as it moves away. Federal officials say she weaponized her vehicle and struck an agent first. Which of those two stories is true? What exactly happened on Portland Avenue in Minneapolis on the 7th of January 2026? And which pieces of evidence will decide whether the shooting was lawful or criminal? Stay with me. In the next 14 minutes, we'll rebuild a minute-by-minute timeline, point to the footage and records that will make or break the official account, and show exactly what prosecutors and oversight investigators are going to demand. This is an evidence-first, courtroom files breakdown of the Minneapolis ICE shooting that killed 37-year-old Renée Nicole Good. This summary covers publicly reported materials and evidence as of the 9th of January 2026. It is educational only and not legal advice. Investigations are ongoing and new evidence could change the conclusions we discuss. What follows is a forensic reconstruction using bystander video, official ICE and DHS statements, witness accounts, and reporting from outlets including the Associated Press, The Guardian, CBS, People, and local EMS reporting. On the 7th of January 2026, roughly mid-morning public reporting places the encounter at about 9:30 a.m. Central federal agents were conducting an operation on Portland Avenue in Minneapolis near East 33rd 34th Streets, a residential area near Roosevelt High School. The person shot and killed is identified in reporting as Renée Nicole Good, age 37, a mother of three. Here's the central conflict that turns this into a legal question. DHS and ICE issued an early public statement saying an agent fired in self-defense after Good weaponized her vehicle, that is, allegedly struck officers with her SUV. But multiple bystander videos that circulated online and were reviewed by journalists appear to show something different. The SUV turns away and moves off while the agent fires into it. Reporters and use of force experts have said the footage does not obviously show contact with an officer. If the vehicle struck an agent, that could justify a self-defense claim depending on exact timing and severity. If the vehicle was driving away unarmed when shot, then the legal and policy questions about firing at a moving car become much tougher for the agency. But video alone, without verified timestamps, metadata, and corroborating records, will get you only part of the story. That's what this breakdown is about. Which documents and technical evidence fill the gaps? There are multiple bystander videos from different vantage points, and at least one exterior surveillance clip reported by local outlets. Several published clips show masked federal agents approaching a stopped SUV. One agent fires several shots into the vehicle as it moves away. At least 3 shots are audible in one widespread clip, though the exact number and trajectory require forensic audio and ballistic analysis. Not all video files are equal. A compressed social post or a streamed clip on social media often strips or alters timestamps and can change frame rates. Journalists who reviewed the footage called for the original files, the camera originals, or raw phone files, because the timestamps and metadata can pin down the exact second of events. What investigators need from video includes original files from witnesses with metadata intact, exterior CCTV files with server logs that confirm time sync, any local law enforcement or traffic camera footage with accurate timestamping tied to official clocks, and body-worn camera and vehicle dash camera footage from ICE or other federal vehicles. Those last items are crucial and, as of reporting, have not been publicly released. If the bystander videos show the SUV moving away, could a body camera show a different perspective, for example, that an agent was struck before camera view? Yes. That's why authorities and prosecutors will treat body-worn cameras and vehicle cams as decisive. But will ICE release them? That's another fight investigators and public officials will push on. Next, we move from pictures to bodies. Who was hurt, when, and how does the medical timeline help decide what happened? Multiple witnesses reported that federal vehicles initially blocked EMS access, and at least one account said bystanders, including someone identifying as a physician, were prevented from rendering aid. Follow-up reporting suggested an approximate 15-minute delay before EMS reached the SUV on foot. That is witness testimony and must be corroborated. Records that will prove or disprove that delay include 911 and dispatch logs showing when the call was received and when EMS was dispatched, EMS run sheets and vehicle GPS showing units on route and patient contact times, hospital intake and time of death pronouncement if applicable, forensic autopsy and time of death estimates, and photographs or videos depicting the scene as EMS arrived. If EMS was delayed because federal vehicles blocked them, that raises separate legal and policy questions about post-force duties to render and obtain medical care. DHS policy requires prompt medical aid after force. If that obligation was not met, investigators would examine whether the failure contributed to the outcome. DHS's early statement that an agent was struck by Good's vehicle is a linchpin for the agency's claim of justified force. But publicly available videos do not clearly show contact, and journalists and experts have said there is no visible proof in the clips reviewed. To verify whether an agent was struck, investigators will look for injury records and medical treatment documentation for the agent, body camera footage or testimony indicating the moment of contact, vehicle damage analysis for scrape marks or paint transfers, forensic scene measurements including tire marks and debris patterns, and independent witness statements describing contact. Suppose medical and video evidence show no agent was struck. That undermines the self-defense narrative and raises the question of why the agent fired and whether that force was reasonable. Perception of imminent danger is legally relevant, but perception must be reasonable and supported by facts. And that's exactly what contemporaneous records test. Several videos show the apparent shooter getting into a silver SUV and driving away, reportedly through a red light. Some reporting says federal agents departed the scene before local investigators secured it. That conduct affects chain of custody, scene preservation, and the ability of investigators to access body camera footage and other agency evidence. Investigators will subpoena ICE vehicle telemetry and GPS logs, dash camera footage from federal vehicles, officer interview transcripts, and internal after-action reports, Minneapolis police scene logs showing when local authorities arrived and whether they were allowed access, and security camera footage along the route the silver SUV took to corroborate departure and timing. Chain of custody matters because if agents depart and possibly remove evidence from the scene, whether cameras, weapons, or the SUV itself, it complicates forensic reconstruction and can lead to allegations of obstruction or interference. Federal agencies often assert operational security to limit document release. That will clash with state demands for transparency and potentially with court orders. The political fallout, with city and state officials calling for access, is already shaping the legal battlefield. Now about standards. Federal ICE and DHS use of force policies matter, but so do constitutional standards for criminal prosecutions. Use of force experts quoted in reporting said firing at a moving vehicle at close range is inconsistent with typical de-escalation tactics unless there is an imminent deadly threat. Investigators and prosecutors will need to prove or disprove different things depending on the review. For administrative review, the question is whether the agent followed DHS and ICE policy on use of force, which requires examining written policies, training materials, and the agent's training records. Key questions include whether the agent issued clear commands, gave warnings, and had an opportunity to disengage rather than fire. For criminal prosecution, prosecutors must prove beyond a reasonable doubt that the agent's actions were not legally justified. For example, that there was no reasonable belief of imminent threat or that the force used was excessive under the circumstances. For civil wrongful death claims, the standard is lower, but still requires showing negligence or intentional misconduct. These are fact-intensive inquiries.